All right, everyone, welcome back to Cult Fiction. My name is Bueller, and I'm taking the realms this time because we're going to talk about going to Comic-Con in San Diego. I have never been to Comic-Con. However, my compadres have all gone for many years at this point. I have not joined them.
How many
Uh,
how many years in a row have we gone, Eric?
how
I
many
think we've
years?
gone 8 years, 7 years total, but it closed for COVID in the year after.
Right, right.
So
So,
we would have gone 9, but we've been
yes, I
7.
think this would be our 10th because well, I want to say our first one was 2014.
Okay. And we missed a year because
We
COVID
missed
shut it down.
two
So 9
two because of
years,
COVID.
right. 9
Oh,
years.
wow. Okay.
So you
To,
guys are closing in on a decade. You're very well versed in going to Comic-Con. And granted, you didn't start going to Comic-Con at the beginning, obviously. You jumped in before it's reached what it is today, and you've also continued to go during this entire growth that we've seen over the
right.
last and so a lot of people who haven't been there before and would like to go would like to understand your experience. And the big part about going to Comic-Con, which is super difficult for people to navigate, is where do you start? How do you go about initially going, getting your tickets, planning, that kind of thing? What do you do there?
So let me say something real quick, and then I'm going to kick it to Eric because Eric probably knows the most about getting tickets. But just the idea of getting tickets to Comic-Con, to the San Diego Comic-Con, the thing is you got 20 million people who want to go to this venue where there's only 500,000 tickets, right? So they've made it as difficult as they possibly can to actually get tickets. But it's actually just about being consistent. So Eric, do you recall the entire ticket getting process?
Yeah, so it's in a lot of ways it's a lot like what some of the viewers might have seen in Big Bang Theory, where we just kind of got a group of people together. You're allowed to get a ticket for yourself and then two other people. And so what we did was we had it planned out where if I got in, I'd be getting for Alex and Jubal. If Jubal got in, Eric and Alex,
Right,
and so on. And then at the time, we were going with Paul for the first three, I think.
right.
And then he was responsible for getting tickets for his brother and his son. So John and Lucas. And that's just how you have to play it. So
Groups of
each of
three.
us,
Groups.
yeah,
It's built for groups of three.
groups of three, everybody should have some kind of computer device, and you're just sitting there waiting for someone to get on. And then of course we're all on kind of a conference call together because if I get in, right, I'm going to get tickets for Jubal. If Jubal were to get in 45 seconds after me, it makes no sense for him to start getting tickets because I'm going to
Right.
get his tickets.
Now, one thing real quick. You're talking about the actual day of purchasing tickets,
Right.
right? Before that,
Right.
before the day to buy tickets even rolls around, you have to be registered on Comic-Con's website. And
Right.
you have to be registered like 6 months before the tickets go on sale,
Realistically, yeah,
right?
So
realistically.
So the
I,
first thing to do,
I get these emails, and I've yet
Yes,
to be able
because
to
you're
get
registered,
on.
but you
Yeah,
haven't
I
right?
but
haven't.
you haven't tried to get tickets.
So if I want to go to Comic-Con in July, I need to make sure in January that I am registered on the website, right?
Right.
That's step number one. And
I
then
mean,
you
it was
get the
even
invite.
earlier. Yeah. Like, I mean, as soon
Right,
as possible. It's like
right.
register now if you ever want to
That's
go to
right,
Comic-Con.
Like,
You want
no,
to
I
go
right,
mean
in
seriously, like register
2027,
now
make an
for
account
next
now.
year's
right. Because
Comic-Con,
it's
right?
right. Because it's May. You're not if you don't have tickets, you're not going this year.
Right. So
So
but the next time that they're going to sell tickets is probably October,
right.
right?
So
So
you
you
want
want to
to
be
register
registered right now.
now. Right.
Right.
So, like you said, 20 million people are waiting to get into Comic-Con. There's 500,000 tickets waiting to be sold. High value ticket. You want to avoid resale. Sign up as early as possible, like you guys just said, and
Mhm.
then get in on the raffle and or whatever it is. I'm sorry if
Mhm.
raffle not the right word, but you want to be in. Do you use multiple devices? I know you use multiple friends. Do you pull up a phone, a laptop, a desktop, all that kind of stuff?
You can use whatever you want, but it tracks by username, so you can only be on one device at
Okay.
a time.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I have at times been on two devices, but that was because I was on Alex's account and my account because Alex was working.
Okay.
right? So if Alex was working at a certain time, he would give me his info. We all have each other's usernames and passwords
Right.
and stuff like that. And then that way I was on an iPad and a laptop,
Right.
and then I have my phone and I would be talking to Jubal in a conference call, right? Or a call, because maybe Paul would be on the call or whatever to kind of let us know how he's doing too.
Right. So
So,
you have to
Yeah,
have
and I'll,
whatever your group of three is, you all have to have each other's usernames and passwords in case somebody gets in, because you have a limited amount of time from when you get into the purchasing room to actually make the purchase. So you have to have all that info ready to go.
so I want to like regress a little bit and say we're not doing this because of resale value. We're doing this because you guys all go to Comic-Con.
Yeah.
You're not doing it because you want to resell the tickets, which happens, but that's not what this purpose is for. This is if you want to go to Comic-Con, you want to be a part of the event, you want to be in the atmosphere, you want to enjoy it for yourself. Once you're able to do that, which is very trying because I've talked to you guys for 10 years at this point about Comic-Con. I know how difficult it can be. Once you're able to secure your tickets and you know you're going, what are your next moves?
Find a place to
So-
stay
okay,
is
so
yeah,
this is
paramount.
where
We're lucky.
right. This is where we are going to be a lot different than a lot of other people. We, just like Alex just said, we have been extremely lucky.
Mhm.
We have had in what is it, like, maybe this is going to be our 8th time going. We have had to stay at a hotel one time,
Right.
and
Was it your first time?
And it was awful.
It was
and it was the
terrible.
first time.
It was awful.
And it was awful. And it was one of those hotels. It was about 20 miles away from the venue, and it was one of those hotels that used kind of like B-roll on their website for like what it looked like. And then you got there and people were
That's not what it
drying
looked
their
like.
clothes on clotheslines
Yeah.
outside of it and
Yeah.
stuff. And you get into the room and the comforter has
Cigarette burns in
cigarette
it.
Yeah,
burns
like
in it,
birds
like that.
and-
I will say this: I had an amazing time.
Right.
That was
Yeah, of course.
still one of my favorite times, and we actually that was the time that we had Thursday, Friday, Sunday. We did not have Saturday.
That's right.
And the reason I now know it's the 2014 was because the reason we were going was because John was going with us, and we were pretty confident that we could get into the Avengers Age of Ultron panel.
Mhm.
That's what we were trying to do.
Right.
But that was on Saturday. And so we put in for our hookup. Low-key Hawkeye was our hookup. and he did get a couple tickets for John, and we just kind of were like, okay, so John, he should take Lucas, right? Because Lucas is the youngest, his nephew. He takes Lucas. That's fine. But so what me and Jubal did was we went to a movie. I think we saw Hercules,
Right. Right.
and then we had bought
With The Rock?
yeah, that's how long
Yeah,
ago
that
it
was on the
right?
Saturday. That was like
Yeah, it was on the Saturday.
All right. Okay.
And then somebody had bought board games at the event, which is something we could talk
Something to think about.
We
We're
do
gonna-
every event,
Yeah.
right? We do every event, and we played board games. Like, we got pizzas, and we just played board games all that Saturday. So,
Right, so
I still had an amazing time.
The lesson there is if you can get tickets, and even if you have to miss a day, right? Even if you can only get Thursday, Sunday, Friday, or Thursday, Saturday, like it's still worth going to experience it, even if you have to sit out a day. So it's because there's a lot of stuff going on, and but paramount is finding a place to stay. We have stayed with friends or at friends' houses every time other than the hotel from hell every year.
Get friends in San Diego.
Get friends in San Diego. That's step one.
San Diego. Yeah. So basically, and you know what? Oddly enough, you'll probably meet one of our friends from San Diego, which we stay. We're probably going to do a podcast with her soon.
Right.
But yeah, for a couple years we stayed with John's friends who were
They were teachers, so they
teachers.
were like out of
They were,
town
yeah, they
during
they
the
San
spent
summer.
their
Marcos or
whole
something.
summer. They were a married teacher couple who had no kids at the time, and so they just spent their whole summer vacationing somewhere, like
So
traveling.
my question is, would you suggest because you can cancel, booking something even before you got your tickets?
I
They
don't
won't,
think
yeah.
they will allow you to do that because I
Right.
did think about doing that. I thought about trying to book even, when you learn what the next year's Comic-Con is during that Comic-Con, right? So of course, I tried to be like, well, I'll just try to book next year because normally they let you even 24 hours before you can cancel, right? Um, if you're talking about in the vicinity of Comic-Con, not going to happen. Not going
Right.
to happen.
The
They're going
whole
to raise
And if
town.
you
prices.
do, the price is gonna be like so
Right.
absurd.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
The
$400 or
Even a
$500 a
year in
night for a
advance.
Motel
right.
6.
The whole town knows about Comic-Con.
Right.
Every hotel in
You're
the
not going to
area
get over on
knows. You're not going to
anybody.
trick anybody. You're not
Right.
going to get an Airbnb at a discount. That's not going to
Well,
happen.
even without talking about a discount, the idea of just having something set in stone a year in advance, could you possibly do that?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
yeah,
believe
you
you
can
can.
you can set up a reservation a year in advance, but it's going to be expensive,
Okay, I mean that's
No.
fair.
right?
We'll
That's
say
fair.
this.
Okay,
There
so
was that
now
time I did set up an Airbnb a year in advance,
hmm
and then he flaked on us. Remember?
Yeah, they
As we
ghosted
got
you.
close, he flaked.
Because he
oh
realized,
Because he realized exactly
oh,
because he was like a regular dude. He
Oh.
was a regular dude. And I'm not even sure he lived in the area. He just had properties everywhere, right? And I think that because I ended up getting for the whole stay, I think I got for like $750
yeah,
for all of us, right? And I think at some point he realized that he could charge $300 or $400 a day
right.
for the same property, if not
So
more.
that's the
And so
risk.
it should have been $1,500,
Exactly.
right?
So if you try to finagle something, it's gonna fall through. Don't try to don't try to sneak in and pay something less. The reality is if you can't afford it, then what you need to do is the farther away from the venue you get, the cheaper things get very, very
Yeah.
quickly. So just stay someplace that's half an hour, 45 minutes away. That's just what you gotta do.
it's
Right.
understandable. I mean, and that brings me to my next question is okay, so everyone comes to San Diego Comic-Con from all over the globe. This is the paramount Comic-Con to go to. So if you're driving, plan, if you're flying, plan, if you're walking, plan, whatever it is, get your hotel, get your Airbnb, get a friend in San Diego like these guys
Right.
do, that kind of thing. So that's going to be different for everybody. But what's not different for everybody, what can be brought into the same bag, so to speak, is what do you bring with you? How do you prepare?
Bring an ass pillow.
Dude, a donut pillow is not a bad idea because they're
No,
chairs.
It's
for
actually a
real.
bad idea.
I didn't
Yeah.
start doing it until like 3 or 4 years in. And it's like at the chairs, they are not the most comfortable chairs in the world. So I bought, they have it,
Just
go on
fold out
Amazon,
chairs?
just take a look for world's softest ass pillow or something. Like a portable, and you throw it on the chair and you just sit down, and I swear to God,
Can you
it'll
get
be
one
worth
to
a
like
million bucks.
flip onto your backpack or what?
Yeah, it's real small. It's just about the size of it's just a seat cushion, and you just throw it down on the seat, and you sit on top of it. And I swear to God, after you've been there a couple of years and you put that thing down, like an
Right.
angel kiss your butt.
Right.
See, now I'm learning things because I didn't know that, and I'm going to do that. I'm doing that now because I wear a backpack everywhere.
Right. We
when
all
I'm there.
have a bag that we carry that has various stuff in it. You're going to want to bring. I mean, most important, as far as my opinion, most important. Do not eat at Comic-Con. Do not eat the food at Comic-Con. Like, all respect
Yeah, not
to
that
the
it's
vendors,
bad,
right? Respect to the vendors. But you're going to pay $20 for a pretzel, right? You're going to pay $10 for a muffin, and it's going to be old and gross. Just bring granola bars. And also, you are in San Diego during Comic-Con. There is so much good food in San Diego, right? So Hodads. So
Walking distance.
walking distance. So like, just do not eat anything. Pack a water bottle. Bring a water bottle so that you can fill it up at water fountains. Don't buy bottled water there. It's expensive. Bring a little thermos of coffee if you want some coffee. Bring some granola bars. Plan on not eating while you're there. It'll save you money.
And they do have, you can go in and out. So if you do need to get something to eat, you can go out and come back in.
Oh,
So it's
that's
just like,
clutch. That's clutch.
yeah.
Okay.
So what we do,
because,
is we
getting
go.
food there. They have
we-
a couple of Starbucks kiosks and the food there is fine.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's not that the
not the
food is
cafeteria.
bad.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
going to be ridiculously expensive. We go, we probably leave somewhere around 8:30, maybe 8:30 in the morning, something like that. We go have breakfast because I don't think the venue even opens until 9:30 or 10 most days, right? So we leave at 8 or 8:30. We go have a nice breakfast, like a good breakfast.
Breakfast
And
Republic.
Breakfast Republic, exactly. And we'll have, again, like you said, granola bars, jerky, something like that, so you can just nibble on it. And just know that at 5, 6 o'clock you're gonna have hodads, right? Or you're gonna have something,
Right.
one of the 30, 40, 50, 60
Right.
amazing restaurants that you
Taqueria
can go
Vallarta.
to.
Just want to say Taqueria Vallarta. Just throwing that out there.
Ooh, that was
Mhm.
amazing too. Right, yes.
Mhm.
So, it's like I have 2 meals. I have breakfast and I have lunch, and then, maybe some jerky, and that's what I'm packed with.
If
Right.
you're allowed to bring a bag in, which you obviously are, then
Yeah.
makes sense. You go throw some trail mix, throw some jerky, granola bars, obviously some water bottles, or
Something to drink and an ass pillow, and
then
you're good to go.
You get a clip on your
That's
set.
right.
And I was going to ask, like, where else is there to eat outside of the venue? But you said Hodad's, Breakfast Republic, Taqueria Vallarta, I believe.
Mhm.
Way, but that's more towards where we stay. But there's a ton of places downtown if you
Right.
want to. Lots of bars. I mean, a Subway
whole
for
gas
God's sakes.
line
If you want to just go get a
Yeah.
Subway sandwich,
Yeah.
And we're not sponsored by any of these people. We're just
Sure,
throwing
sure.
out suggestions that these guys have been to.
I would
Again,
love to be
haven't been
sponsored by Hodad's though.
So Hodad's wants to throw a sponsor toward us. Yeah,
Right.
We'll take that.
Best burgers on planet Earth.
And Breakfast Republic, because they got good merch too.
They do. I bought one of those
Yeah, they
big
do.
coffee cups last time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that place is dope.
So a big hearty breakfast is going to hold you over for a while.
Yes.
You're talking like pancakes, hash browns,
Yes.
sausage.
Yeah, because you're walking. I mean, the venue, the building is like a mile long.
Right.
Okay, it's massive.
So
And
if
when-
you've ever
And
been to a
multi-level.
Yeah.
this is a theme park day.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you know me. You know me. I do my 10,000 steps every day and stuff like that. Easily. You're
Mhm.
going to get your 10,000 steps. You're probably going to get 15,000, 15 to 18,000, if you're doing it right.
Because the other thing to do is like you have that venue and it's huge and wide, but within like a 4 or 5 block radius around it, there's all this other activity going
Right.
on
Right.
that you can do and partake. You could go to Comic-Con without tickets to the venue,
Right.
and you could
Right.
still find stuff to do.
There's a ton
day
of
long.
stuff outside the venue. Like just a ton of stuff.
It's
Mm.
like downtown Disney, but like
Right.
bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
but even more interactive, right? Because they'll have installations from, like, CBS will have an installation about whatever new show they've got in the fall or something, or Hulu will have an installation where you kind of like walk through it, and maybe it's they have some kind of horror show on Hulu, and it'll have some kind of almost like a haunted house or something like that.
Mhm.
Right.
So there's a ton of stuff. Not to mention there's interviews going on like up and around. I'll say this: one of the things, there's so much stuff to do that I know for a fact the 3 of us haven't like done everything, and we've gone, like, this will be our 8th time. Like, there's stuff on the back of the venue. Like I think a year or so ago there was like a pirate ship or something.
Right.
And I'm like,
right.
that might be there all the time, and I don't even know it. You know what I mean?
Stuff you haven't
And
seen at all.
this is a nice little segue, because we talked about games. This is a nice little segue for Jubal, because there's an area that he goes to all the time that I bet you there's a ton of people who go there every year that don't even know exists.
Yeah. So yeah, if you've gone to Comic, you may not even realize. I like board games. Alex likes we all like board games, right? if you go down to the floor where all the stuff is, right, the huge floor, and then in the back up the mezzanine, you go up the mezzanine. There are rooms up there on the upper level that have board game producers trying out new board games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, so you can try stuff that's not even available yet. You can, they'll give you stuff so you can order it. You can get some free stuff from them for like when you buy it. They don't sell them there, but you can play them, and you can just see like if there's anything. And then if there's a game up there, an older game that's being played, you can go back down to the floor and find it for sale. Right. So it's a great opportunity to just even if you just want to take a break and play a game. If you don't have any panels you want to see, you go up and just play a game, or just watch some people playing some games. As a board gamer, sometimes you just want to see how it's done. You want to see how people play it. It's super, super cool. And that's up in the mezzanine behind the showroom floor. Nobody knows it's up there. And here's one other thing. I'm going to throw this out as a little pro tip for the more advanced Comic-Coners. I'm about to save you some serious time.
You got some tread on your tires, folks.
If you go up the mezzanine out where I'm talking about, where all the board games are, and you go out the back door and you go to the stairs, it takes you to ballroom 20. So if you are on the floor, you can go up the back and out and to ballroom 20, and it will save you from having to walk back through the entire complex, which will take you, because it is shoulder to shoulder in there most of the time.
Most of the time, right?
If you try to walk back out the front, walk up the escalator, do all that, it's going to take you half an hour. But you can walk straight up the back, out the mezzanine, through the door, up the stairs, ballroom 20. So just throwing that out there.
Solid advice. And we'll get to more advice later, but I have to ask this. We're talking about buying things. Is cash still paramount at Comic-Con, or now that we're in the digital age, does cash not matter anymore?
No, the cash doesn't matter.
Good question. I will say, of all of us, the person who probably uses cash the most is Jubal. And I'm just guessing that because every year Jubal gets a commission from an artist.
Right. So every year I get a commission of my wife from an artist. And the reason that I do that is because, and I say this to the artist, I go up to the artist and I say, listen, I have a problem. And the artist is like, I'm busy. I don't care what your problem is, right? And I say, today's my wife's birthday, because my wife's birthday always falls on Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
I say, today's my wife's birthday. And the artist is like, yeah, I don't understand why that's my problem. I say, today's my wife's birthday and I'm at Comic-Con. Oh, so I'm happy to pay you cash on the barrelhead for a commission of my wife. And that generally gets me in the front door, and at least, into a negotiation of whether or not this artist actually can produce something for me.
And all of that is true. It's not like he's lying to them.
It's absolutely true.
He has missed his wife's birthday.
the last 8 years or whatever it's been. So yeah, and so I always bring her back a commission, something cool. I've got her as like Catwoman, as Wonder Woman, as like all this stuff, whatever.
Well, so would you say then at that point, like, cash is king? Because
if you want to get something done from an artist, bring cash. Right.
Yeah.
For everything else, I would recommend that you actually don't. That anybody can get a card that gives you 2% back on whatever it is you're buying. That's what you should be using to buy.
Well,
stuff.
The reason I ask that is because last Comic-Con, Eric was able to pick me up some stuff that I was looking for my nephews.
Oh yeah.
If does cash seem to work you up better in the line? Does it matter?
No.
Well, Eric knows more about like the collectible stuff. So,
right. So then, what do you buy there? Eric buys collectibles, you buy commissions. Alex, what do you buy?
I mean, I don't go for the exclusives so much, like Eric does. I'm not so much a collector. But there's a lot of booths there that have a lot of like specific tastes. Like I like the horror stuff, and that people aren't into so much. But they have these places that do like little, there's what is it, Mondo, with a really cool booth, because they have a lot of awesome artwork for posters for like classic horror movies like The Thing, Halloween, stuff like that, right up my alley. And They have commissions you can do on the floor, not in a professional commission like Jubal had, but one year I went and the guy that does commissions, he did, it wasn't a professional artist, but he just did those caricatures, like you can give him a picture and he writes somebody as like an anime character, something like that. And he
Right.
does it in front of you. It takes like, 7 or 8 minutes. You can videotape the whole thing. That's really, really cool. And so it's like for me, because I'm a little bit off the beaten path a lot compared to Jubal and Eric. So I'm always kind of finding those things that they're not really the focal point of the state, because you can find so much stuff to do there and that you don't have to wait in a giant line for, because everybody knows about Hall H. You can go see the big exclusive for the Avengers and all the big movies. And that's fine. If that's what you want to do it. That's going to be your entire day, though. If you want to go to Hall H, yes.
It's actually very helpful with Alex doing that, because he's usually the person who finds like the board game booth that we're eventually gonna maybe buy a board game from. Like, because he's doing that, because he's kind of looking at maybe a lot of booths and stuff that maybe Jubal and I aren't necessarily. He's usually, and that's another thing. We have a text chain with us.
Right.
Sure.
They're saying, "Oh, I'm going to Ballroom 20." It'll be, Alex will say, "I'm going to, BDF, which is one of the larger rooms for this thing. Maybe Jim Lee at 11:30 in the morning or something. Do you guys want to go?" But aside from that, we're separate. Like, the first year we were together, like a
first year.
Like the nerd herd.
Like a nerd herd. But we've got to a point where it's like he knows what he wants to do. Jubal knows what he wants to do. I know what I want to do. And then we throw things at each other through the text message, going, "Hey, I saw this one, looks pretty cool. What do you think? Do you want to go? Anybody want to go?" And people will be like, yeah. Or Jubal will be like, I'm across the street at one of the hotels, which is another thing we should talk about.
Right.
That you can go to panels at hotels across the street, stuff like that. So so us having different kind of interests does help. Because we will get the text message from Alex, be like, "Oh, found the board game thing," because he was looking at an area that maybe I wouldn't have gone to,
I think also one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people use the app to try to plan out their day and look at the panels and try to figure out where they're going to go. And I can't recommend enough the magazine.
Yes.
Right? Like the actual handout that they give you when you walk in gives you a schedule of room by room, all the panels, and you can line it up by time of day instead of looking at the app. Like the app is cool. It's got a bunch of stuff in it that's helpful, and you can mark favorites and it'll remind you and do all that kind of stuff. But the actual handout that they give you, if you're trying to plan your day, and you should the night before, you should try to like circle some panels that you really want to see so that you know where you need to be, when you need to be there, right? But even doing that, there's no way you're going to catch everything. Half the time these guys are going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to this panel." I'm like, "You're going to what? I didn't even know that was a thing," right? I'm like, "Check that out." I'm going to screw this writing panel I was going to. I'm going to go check out this thing. So,
and like to piggyback on what I was saying, it's like depending on what your interests are, you can always find something cool to do that you don't have to wait in a big line for. Like you probably have to wait in line, but I'm a big fan of a writer, Joe Hill, who's like Stephen King's son. He had a panel that was like, 100 people maybe, and you just walk right in. He's there. You can literally talk to him about his new book and stuff like that. There was another thing I went to that was like, put you on the helm of a Star Trek ship, and it was just like, and there's nothing. It's like in a back room somewhere that isn't one of the big rooms, and there's nobody there. There's no line, and there's 100 things like that you can find. So it's just sort of like, if you just do a little bit of footwork, you can ignore Hall H completely, unless you want to spend your whole day doing it. Ballroom 20, all these things, they're great, but there's 100 things you can do that will take you a lot less time, and you don't have to wait in line to do them.
Right.
So just a couple things to touch on. First off, it's called San Diego Comiccon. To reiterate, it's not just comics, as we've kind of touched on a little bit here. If you're interested in it, you can probably find it there, right?
Right.
Hobbyists, you like board games, If you like horror, Alex likes horror, you can find it there. People are releasing all kinds of new and interesting things that are going to be coming out over the next couple of years or that very same year or whatever. If it's pop culture, which is what we talk about on Cult Fiction, it's at Comic-Con, most
Right.
likely. I'm not saying guaranteed, but most likely.
There's panels on TV shows, on movies, on new series that are coming out. There's video game stuff, like if you like Blizzard, if you like the BioShock series, Bethesda, like whatever. If it's got any following to it at all, you're almost certainly going to be able to find something on it at Comic-Con.
So what I'm getting is venture off the beaten path. Obviously, your first time there, you're going to be overwhelmed. It happens.
Right.
Understand. But realize there's going to be so many other things for you to explore. You don't have to.
I think the closest thing, like when I first saw the floor at Comic-Con, because it's like 3/4 of a mile long of just comic book stuff,
something like that. Yeah.
Right. It just took my breath away.
Yeah.
Like you stand in the middle of it and it just goes on, and it's just comic book characters and stuff. It's like just
the amount of people.
Yeah.
You think you understand what
is.
a lot of people is.
If I'm not mistaken, it might be the third biggest convention center in the country.
Mhm.
I think there's one in Atlanta that's bigger, and there might be one in Vegas that's bigger.
But this
It's
fills
enormous.
it up. Like
Yeah.
it fills it up, right? And it's just from front to back, like as far as the eye can see.
So
Yeah.
if you're interested in it and it's part of pop culture, it's probably there. So
Yeah.
that being said, because there's so much, and I've heard the food and I've heard Hall H, what else would you say? Avoid that. Don't do that. Do
Okay.
something else.
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna take exclusives part of that, so you guys can talk about something else if you've got something. When I went there, I was completely and utterly overwhelmed because mainly because I had about 3 or 4 exclusives that I wanted to get, all of them for my kids. And then when you want to do something for your kids, that makes you even more stressed out about it, right? Like if it's something for you and you don't get it, it's like, that darn. But if it's something for your kids, you don't get it, you like, I still do the dad, And so I went there, and then I found out that you have to sometimes get in line at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a ticket to get in line at the event. And I was like, oh, hell to the no, right? And like, I'm not going to do that. So, what ended up happening was I got lucky, and the things that I wanted to get weren't like the craziest things ever. So by Saturday and Sunday, they were allowing people to get into those lines at Hasbro or Mattel who didn't have tickets. And the things that I wanted were not sold out. It was like an Infinity Gauntlet thing for my son, and a Batmobile from one of the Arkham Knight games for him, and then this Barbie of one of the DC characters. But whatever. Nothing I wanted was too sought after. If I wanted a Transformer or something, I would have been screwed because those were going to be gone in the first couple days. But once I got past, like, don't worry about exclusive, just enjoy the panels, enjoy your friends, enjoy the booths. Man, that made my life so much easier, just ridiculously easier. I go almost exclusively for the booths, or excuse me, for the panels now.
Right.
There are some booths that I will absolutely make time to go see. Until a couple years ago, Sideshow booth was one of those. Sideshow hasn't done it the last couple years for whatever their reasons are, but obviously that was one of the booths. Alex mentions, Mondo, who's owned by Funko, so I would look at the Funko booth, the Mondo booth, those kind of things. But yeah, booths, panels. The exclusives, if you want to turn around, if you want to sell something, okay, that's fine.
That's your con. Like if you're there to buy collectible stuff so that you can resell it, then that's why you're there. You're not there to enjoy the con, right? So just find out what you need to do and do it, and do your reselling. But if you want to, if you want to buy some knickknacks, you want to buy some things, what I would recommend is you go around and you just map out. Every booth has a number, right? Just map it out because you're not going to remember where it is.
Right.
Get the number, and then just write down on a little notebook what you were interested in, and then go back on Sunday, because Sunday is deal day, right? Because Sunday is the last day. Sunday, all the vendors there are going to be packing up their stuff and leaving with it. They don't want to pack up all their stuff.
And that's when cash comes in.
that's when cash is king.
So
that's when cash is king. So you say, oh, I see you're trying to sell this, plushy Robotech doll for $90. I'll give you 50 cash. If it's Sunday, they'll probably take it. So
this is good. This is good advice, and we're gonna get to advice in just a second. But I want to know, Jubal, what do you avoid aside from food?
Okay. So Alex has touched on it already. Even though he has, and Alex should actually make sure you ask him about actually getting his ADA pass. But he has the easiest time getting into Hall H of us. But I would say avoid Hall H. Like if you want to go to Comic-Con to see what's in Hall H, here's the thing. After Comic-Con is over, you'll see everything that was in Hall H on YouTube, right? That's not why you're spending your time at Comic-Con. You want to see cool stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else. Hall H is where they do the big announcements, where they show the trailers for the new stuff that's coming out, like the new Marvel movie that's coming out, the new Star Wars movie that's coming out. They're going to have a big feature in Hall H, right?
But like Alex has said and Jubal said, if you're going to do it, that's your day.
That's your day.
Your day.
And you're giving up everything else that's at the con just for that trailer. And I don't think that's a good trade. That's not why you're there.
Hall H a couple of times, and it's always fun going to Hall H. Don't get me wrong. It's an experience because you are seeing something for the first time, and it's really cool. When Comic-Con is over a week later, you've seen all the information. You can get all the information they showed someone else, like Jubal said, on YouTube, but you missed out on 100 things that you wouldn't be able to see anywhere, and that's what's really kind of cool. You go to panels that you're not going to see this on YouTube. Like we go to every year, there's a few panels that we hit, with every single year, like Spotlight on Jim Lee, animation, Quick Draw and stuff like that.
Quick Draw, yeah.
And these are like awesome panels that are super fun. Jim Lee's a really, really informative, funny guy, and always draws these stuff, and he gives them away to people in the audience. He draws a Batman, and he just gives it away. And it's like, you're not going to get that experience in Hall H, But if you go to something like that, and maybe you'll get a Batman that Jim Lee drew, it's like, that's going to be an experience that you're going to remember a lot longer than being in Hall H. Like, the first time you get into Hall H, it's going to be awesome. You remember that forever. The second and third time, it's just kind of the same thing again. So it's like those smaller panels, those are the things that really surprise you. And they come together, and it's like, this sounds like kind of a neat thing. They'll have random things like stuntmen, talking about being in the stunt business. And it sounds like that's weird, and you talk to them, and it's awesome. All these people have all these stories. You're not going to see those on YouTube. All the stuff in Hall H you'll be able to see.
Right.
Well, like we said, Comic-Con is extremely eclectic. Like there's so many different things that it's not comic centric, even though it's called Comic-Con. There's so many other things that you can get involved with at Comic-Con, and if you just venture out a little bit, you'll see all these awesome different anomalies that don't have anything to do with comics, that have to do with horror, like you said, stuntmen, things like that. And we were talking about things to avoid. Eric said exclusives. Jubal said Hall H. Alex, if you're new to the podcast, is hearing impaired. Alex does get an ADA pass and uses it to his advantage and got into Hall H multiple times. But I mean, it's allowed. It's not like you're taking advantage of anything.
Right.
You're allowed to be there.
Yeah.
They're really, really generous with if you're handicapped or
exactly. Yeah. So if you need an accommodation, they will take care of you, which is, hats off to San Diego Comic-Con for doing that.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And so you could talk a little 100%. Bit about that, but also, what do you avoid at San Diego Comic-Con?
There's nothing I actively avoid so much. It's just that I found out the things that I zone in on. But I suppose I can give a recommendation, especially if it's your first time. Bring some aspirin, because it's sort of like you're going to be on your feet a lot, and it might shock you how much walking you're going to do. Because if you're not prepared, if you're somebody that isn't very active, it's going to be hard on you. you know, so it just sort of like brings some aspirin, some good walking shoes, you know, but there's
Avoid walk,
nothing that I
avoid walk.
actively avoid so much anymore. I just kind of know what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Right.
especially if it's your first time, you're gonna go to ballroom 20 the wrong way. Or you're gonna go to
Right.
and now you're walking even longer, right?
Right.
And so that first time you probably are doing your best bit of walking. You know, Alex is
Mhm.
and Jubal and myself are to the point where like we know what we want. Jubal has, you know, he likes to do his writing stuff, and like you said, we plan it out. You know, Jubal might not have to take too many walks because he'll go, well, I like this panel, and it's next to this panel, and then this, we're
Right.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
on your first time, you're not going to do that.
Right.
That's just not
Right.
going to happen. You're not going to have a gauge for what you like on the first one. So you're going to do a lot of walking, you know.
Yeah. And on that note too, you might want to take into account that really it's hard to sit down and rest sometimes. But sometimes you can
Yes.
just go into an empty panel with no line and just grab a seat. Like we did that a
Okay.
few times.
Okay.
I've done that.
So
Yeah.
this is a bit of advice. Speaking of that,
Right. So let's jump into advice now. All right. So
okay.
so I
Number
have,
one piece of advice.
oh, hold on. A group chat is key.
Yeah.
Right.
Group
Right.
chat.
That is key.
Yeah.
Snacks are key.
Bring your own food.
Also, aspirin. Let me ask about this real quick. Earplugs.
I don't need them.
Yeah.
Don't need them? No, I was
No.
just
Don't
curious.
forget ass
That's,
pillows.
Yeah.
that's for me. I was
Ass
just
pillow.
curious.
Ass
An
pillow.
Ass pillow, probably. Yeah.
All right, Eric, what do you got, man?
Don't overlook the idea of sitting through a whole panel just to have a seat for the next panel.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There are some panels that are going to be absolutely packed full, but the one before them is kind of like meh, right? And I have specifically gone to a panel for no other reason other than to sit there to make sure I had a seat for the panel that I knew was going to be bigger next.
Right.
That's solid. That's solid. Okay.
Mhm.
Pro
Yeah.
tip.
If it's like the panel of the day that
Right.
you want to see, get there early. Right.
Right.
Get
Because,
there
you
the
know,
panel before.
Outside of Hall H, I've seen Stan Lee. I've seen Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. You know what I mean? Like the amount of people that you can see outside of Hall H. I've seen Kirkman outside of Hall, you know, in one of the other rooms, you know. Ballroom 20, for example, does a lot of bigger shows too. Not everything is in Hall H. So, but Ballroom 20 can get a line going. So if you know that show that you really want to see in Ballroom 20 is going to line up, you might want to line up for the one before Ballroom 20, before your show.
I had a day, I want to say 2 Comic-Cons ago, the one where the Danny Trejo panel was in Ballroom 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I was basically in Ballroom 20 the whole day. Like I just camped out in Ballroom 20 because there was like 3 or 4 panels I definitely wanted to see, and there was a couple panels that I could be like whatever, right? But so that was my day. Was just Ballroom 20 that day. And so if you know, be ready to do something like that if that's the stuff that you want to see.
Yeah. And so you might be listening and go, well, how is that different than Hall H? The difference is that there are people who are in Hall H from the beginning, and the only thing they want to see is the Marvel thing at 7:00, or the DC thing at 7:00, or the Star Trek thing at 7:00, or the Star Wars thing at 7:00.
Yeah, there's a line for Ballroom 20 that can get long, you know, a couple hundred people. The line for Hall H is thousands of people all of the time.
Right. And so what Jubal's saying is he actually, the reason he camped out there all day is because there were 6 panels and 4 of them he wanted to see.
Yeah.
Right.
What, you know, so that's a day well spent. What's not a day well spent is to be in line
for half the day
at
then,
8:00 in the morning, if not earlier, and then maybe not even getting into Hall H until 2:00 in the afternoon for a panel that you want to watch at 7.
Right.
That's the issue.
That's crazy.
That's the difference.
Why would you go to Comic-Con? Like, you're missing everything if you do that, in my opinion. You know, but if that's your thing, then do your thing. Whatever.
So, Jubal, any other closing advice?
That's boy, there's a lot.
Yeah,
I would
there's a lot.
say
We could do a whole nother episode, honestly. We really could.
This is San Diego Comic-Con Part 1.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
seriously. It really could be part 1, right?
I would say this. Just keep in mind that part of your experience in going to Comic-Con is also, we hit on it a little bit earlier, is also experiencing San Diego. So you've got a lot of really cool stuff to do in San Diego. If you have an off day, if you have a day you don't have tickets for, plan it out ahead of time. Know where you're going to get your dinner, because even though there are a lot of places to go, even though there's it's better to eat out than to eat at the venue, there's hundreds of thousands more people in San Diego than there normally are. So make sure you have reservations, or you know exactly where you're going to go to get your food. But try some food that you haven't tried before.
Yeah. Hey, go to Slater's 5150.
There you go.
Alex, any closing advice for San Diego Comic-Con?
I mean, I'm sure there's stuff I'm forgetting, but offhand, I think I put up a lot of the important things, especially the ass pedal. But dude, I'm telling you right now, after a couple of years, and you get one, you'll never go back.
I'm gonna
normal channel.
look on my phone to buy one as soon as we get off of here.
Get one that clips onto your backpack, bro. They exist.
I mean,
I have a neck pillow that I bring on planes that clips onto my backpack.
Similar deal.
Yeah.
Well, all right. There you go. You have San Diego Comic-Con episode 1. We'll revisit this again, possibly before San Diego Comic-Con, or maybe after. We'll see what happens. But thank you for joining us. This is Cult Fiction. My name is Bueller. Thank you for letting me take over for one time. Appreciate that. Eric, Alex, Jubal, it's been a pleasure.
Later.